Howdy, everybody. Welcome to part 3 of Short Circuit, where this is the third and final part that we go over the very famous and important LPB1 linear power booster. And I have fully destroyed this circuit and made the LPB1 a drive fuzz. This is in the description. It's a hand-drawn. I did not throw it into Eagle yet, but we're gonna show. There's no we in Short Circuit, is there? Well, Bell and Josh are in the chat, and they're equally as important as me. But we're gonna look at this today. So let me just give you a demo of where I landed. It looks different than last week. Pretty obvious. Here is. That's the picture. That's a screenshot from last week's stream. That's where I left. And then this is where I am today. So we have some significant differences here. There's only 2-3 pots. I'm still deciding on one of these pots. I'm unsure on this. You'll help me decide. There's a switch and another switch. But this was part 2, and this got us through the idea of modifying the LPB1 and then tagging on another LPB1 as a gain makeup stage, like on the big muff. So here this is, and yeah, again, this schematic is free to use. After this, you might want to go build it. I'm actually talking to Jordan at Copper Sound. It'd be interesting to hear in the comments, what do you think about him offering a parts kit for every build I go through? I kind of imagine me teaching a circuit, 3-ish episodes per circuit, and then having an original design. Like, this is an original design. There's never been anything like this. I mean, there's stuff similar, but that's a unique design, and you could just build it. So in the comments, let us know about that. So let's play this for you. Where I've landed, and I'm going to go through detail descriptions here, and I'm going to actually try to wrap this up in a way where you understand how the circuit works, what mods I did, and I'm actually going to go through several of your questions that I screenshot from the comments before. So I'm really excited about today, and honestly, I'm just super pumped to do this in a world of, I mean, today's a huge release for us. It's a product collaboration with the Beach Boys. I kind of like this more than that stuff. I love tinkering and creating. I love circuits like this. So it's a real honor to get to hang out with you. And I really wish this had existed when I was getting into circuits. My gosh, it would have saved me so much trouble. And I was talking to Jordan of Copper Sound. He said the same thing. Like, what if these breadboards had existed? What if a YouTube show like this had existed? So I'm pumped and really honored. So here, let's play this thing. And this is the new drive control. It is technically an emitter resistor off of Q1 in the schematic. I'll explain that later. This is now a 2-way fuzz control. This is a clipping control, which I do not like, but I put it in here to demonstrate why I put 4 germanium diodes. This is a tone control that a lot of people were curious about. And this is our master volume. So I'm going to mute the mic and play along here. Remember, volume, tone, fuzz toggle, drive. Okay? And then I'm going to get into everything and explain it to you. So here we go. That's our bypass. Turn it on. All right, here we go. I'm just going to demo without talking. It'll sound better if my mic is off. If you want the clean boost, it's there, man. If you want a more better, leave it on, this setting is amazing. And so the tone control is technically off right now. Just know that, which I'll explain why I designed it that way. Now we're into what I would say is like a distortion plus land, DoD 250 land. It's tempting to say rat. There are things that feel that way, but keep in mind, this is a discrete transistor circuit, and it's actually nothing like those topologies. So you're gonna notice as I turn this up, we're gonna have gating. Now I'm in the middle toggle. There's two positions. This is technically the boost overdrive part of the circuit. If you like the taco bolt, we're there. Okay, let's put this at halfway. Now we are in, thank you, Dwayne, for the top chat. The top chats are amazing to me. Oh, Norman Greenbaugh. I love that. Hold on. Let's go to fuzz mode. So you have two fuzz modes. This toggle this way is the lighter fuzz. Check this out. It brightens up. So check this. Middle, fuzz mode 1, it gets a little bright. You're gonna see why I put a toggle switch in, but well, this gets crazy. So I turn the gain up. Now this is where the tone control gets really fun. And this is a rat tone control that I modified, and I'll explain that in a minute. Let's listen. Oh yeah, check it. That is so beautiful. Remember, this is an LPB1 fuzz. This is an LPB1 booster that I've hacked. This is the beauty of circuits. And I said this in episode 2. I always laugh when people are like, it's just a clone. Okay, this is an LPB1 clone. It's the same topologies, but I just love the point here of how crazy. Now, let's go to the bigger fuzz mode. Check it out. Tone control back, big fuzz mode. Here's the normal. Here's normal fuzz. Keep that volume in check. Here we go. Bigger. It's like a chunkier low end on it. Some tone control into that. Okay. So it's really, really cool, obviously. I'm super proud of this. I think by the end of today, what's fun is we have this LPB1 circuit, right? And we'll have about 5 hours of a live stream messing with the legendary circuit. And you're gonna understand the basics of how it works if you've trucked along with me. Let me put this knob on here for the tone. And now I'm gonna go through, I wanna answer some questions first from your comments, but real quick. I'm going to put this knob on the tone control because I forgot to do that. This tone control, essentially, when it's all the way left, it's a low pass filter, but when it's all the way left, it's off. So it's the way the rat works. I just literally pulled it out of a rat. And this is what I've always just said is called a mutt. Like, you know, you can combine, it's like cooking. You can combine so many things and you end up with something really unique and special just from combining. So I'm a big fan of that. Let's jump into some questions here. We're also going to give away, I want to give away this time, Jordan's in here. Joshua's going to pick the person, but I actually I've used the transistor box a ton in this design. I can't tell you how effective and useful this thing was. These are by Copper Sound. This board is by Copper Sound. I actually went nuts on the, what did I use? The most used one on this was the resistors. I was able to do some really nice tweaking without, it was just so nice to have this resistor substitution box. So I covered these in the last 2 episodes. We won't get hung up in them, but we're going to give one of those away. And Joshua, he can figure out how he wants to do that. We'll give it away near 5 o'clock. I'm going to try to go to 5. It won't happen. We might go over as usual. Joshua and Bill might disappear, but I'll still be here, and Jordan will probably be hanging around. So, all right, here we go. Let's read some of your comments. All right. So Zach Smith 8440 says, it'd be really cool to see how you take a breadboard circuit once it's complete and show how you translate that into assembling an actual pedal. I thought about this a bit. This is not my strong suit. I've said a ton. I've been on several podcasts this year about like, how did you do JHS? You know, how do you, whatever, how did it work? How did you get it to work? Well, one of the big lessons I learned is like, I learn what I'm good at and I just do that. And then what I'm not good at, I find people who are excellent at it. And that's kind of the JHS way. There's a reason Bell's there, and Joshua and Nick and Steve and, you know, the whole crew of 30 plus now. I'm not good at circuit layout. I know Eagle. I can get in there and do PCB layouts, but that is just not my wheelhouse. So my wheelhouse is to take these type of circuits and draw the schematic that you saw and just hand that over. I just hand that over, and then people who are much better, particularly Josh, our head engineer, Cliff was before him. Yeah, that's how I do that. So I'm not the best person for that. I think there should be another channel. Maybe someone can comment. There's probably much better people you would want sharing that. My wheelhouse is tinkering. I am not an engineer, but I have made a career. I've made pedals that I love and thousands of people at least say they love. And I do that because I have learned to feel my way through circuits. I know the principles. I can teach you how it's working. I have learned to feel it and hear it. And I have a Rolodex of options, and I make my circuits that way. So that's just not my power alley. So great question, but not my power alley. So next question. Just lovely. Could you make us a fuzz to show the difference? So I've done that. That is exactly what we have done here. The difference between a fuzz and a boost is that the fuzz is being abused. The fuzz is biased differently. It's hotter. It has just totally tuned different. But a fuzz is an amplifier, and a boost is an amplifier. An overdrive is an amplifier. And once you understand that you can take this classic circuit and understand that it's basically a textbook document. I showed in episode 1, very similar textbook stuff. I actually have another couple here to show you. I found an old audio high fidelity amplifier circuit manual. That circuit, the light is wonderful. Let's tilt it. Yeah, that circuit right there, that's an LPB1 straight out of the transistor manual. It's positive voltage, but it's the same exact circuit. The LPB1 Electro Harmonix started with Robert Meyer just building this circuit, tagging it on to the end of a compressor that was too quiet for Mike Matthews. Look, here's another example of the LPB1. That's essentially just an LPB1. C1 is not in the original. I actually have added that here and I'll explain it. But yeah, that's what I'm getting at here. So yeah, what's the difference between a fuzz and an LPB1? You're going to see through short circuit. I'm going to build a lot of transistor circuits because they're my absolute favorite circuits. And I love transistors, and so a lot of what I'm going to do is interplay with overdrives. I mean, this is going to be like an overdrive fuzz masterclass, I hope, at least my brain. And then there's other great resources like Brian Wampler, who's been doing this like before I was born, I think. There's a lot of stuff out there, but that's my wheelhouse. Let's go to the next question. Please explain what is the next step after you like the circuit. How do you put that into a pedal? So I did that. I finished this. This circuit is done. I am actually tempted to sell this. I think it would be fun to have a vote on, should this be a JHS pedal? It wouldn't happen anytime soon, but I think it'd be really fun to, yeah, it would just be like super cool to make pedals in front of you and then offer them for those of you who don't want to build them, or like you want to buy a packaged product. I love this circuit. So anyway, that's kind of, that's where I'm at on that. I am going to hand this over to Josh, the lead engineer. We have a lot of Joshes. We have a Josh problem. And I think it'll become a prototype, and it'll set in the prototype bin with the other 20 that I have, and it'll probably be a product one day because I absolutely love it. So great question. Next question. Thank you so much, Josh. I've been waiting for this video since you mentioned you would do this in your first breadboard video. I really hope you continue with this and teach us more. I'd be very interested in a video on how to build and modify the Distortion Plus, because it seems to be the design where every distortion started. So yeah, that's great. I do want to get in, that's an op-amp design. That whole category might be a good second project. So the first project being the LPB1 here. I'd like some feedback on this. My power alley is boosts and distortions and fuzzes. We can do some delays. We can get into some of that, but I actually want to start with the principles of drives and boosts because they teach us about gain, and gain is appropriate to learn for everything else. So a distortion plus could be fun. Let me know in the comments what you're into. A distortion plus, a micro amp, a Dan Armstrong blue clipper, a DoD 250, are all essentially the exact same thing. And I could do that as a course. That might go 5 parts, but it would be really extensive, and you would know how an op amp works. So that would be a totally different thing. An op amp is, when we talk about op amps, we're talking about stuff like, you know, chips, like a chip like that, like a tortilla. I fixed my close-up cam so that people wouldn't yell at me. All right, let's do another one here. You caught me with focus, focus. I wasn't fully paying attention and I snapped right up to the screen and knocked over my bong. Okay, that's cool. That's awesome. That's good to know. All right, there we go. Hi, Josh. Enjoying your episode on the LPB1 breadboarding a ton. Your alchemist approach is so inspiring and entertaining. I'm wondering how many people out there are thinking, he doesn't know what he's doing. Greetings from Germany. Again, I love this because do I know what I'm doing at this point? 15 plus years of tinkering with circuits. I absolutely do, but I'm not an engineer. And I want to say this to a lot of you because there are people that will get on to this show later on. I can feel it. There's probably comments lately. They're going to say, he's a hack. He has no idea what he's doing. Here's the thing though. Creativity doesn't have to be professional. I don't have to be an engineer. I have engineer that helps me, but this is what I like to do. And I want to say that to a lot of you creatively. You don't have to be what you're supposed to be. I'm supposed to, as a circuit designer, know how to do all kinds of stuff. I don't. I learned my way through what I was passionate about. Circuits, topologies, branding, market. I learned what I wanted to learn and I made a career out of it. And a lot of people hate that. A lot of people will watch this and go, Josh is saying that wrong. Or he said, and I've said a couple things in wordage here that's actually been backwards, but it's how my mind thinks. And I've seen some comments where it's like, that's actually backwards. And I'm like, well, it technically, yes, but how I'm explaining it was correct because it was more about my ears and how it was perceived. So I'm just an encouragement to you all as creatives, whether it's circuits or music or painting or drawing or photography. You don't have to be proper, right? So I'm glad that this person said I was an alchemist. That's cool. I like alchemy, I think. If I know what it is, Joshua will know what it is. He'll say in the comments. All right. This is one of those. Naming on the pots is confusing. Linear pot seems to imply a linear sweep through the resistance, while audio logarithmic should be heavier changes on one end. You said the opposite. Were you incorrect, or is that insanity in naming conventions? I described two things. I said, and this is really good, I like this. I said a B100 and an A100, they're the same resistance. I was talking about linear and audio taper pots. So you have, that's a B100, and this is an A100. Now, I said the difference is this. I like B100s on volumes because it gets to the point quicker. I said it's more on the front end. You hear that volume happen in a circuit. Technically, though, the A audio resistance-wise is more to the point. It actually pours more resistance on quicker. What I was saying with the linear, it was about how I feel it and hear it. I was wrong technically. Yes, I do want to state that was not a, you go to an electronics class, they're going to say that's wrong. But what I said is right in the fact that the B taper on a volume to me is more preferred because you get to the point quicker. It's a louder circuit conceptually. The user experience feels louder because the taper of it allows the volume to happen quicker. That's what I was trying to say. And I love that. And that's another example of, I'm not an engineer. I feel my way through circuits. And even some of my terms, I don't need them to make sense. I need to know what they mean. And I need to communicate to myself as a designer. And every once in a while on this show, I'm going to say something that's not book correct, but it's me communicating how I need to remember it in my very dyslexic, crazy brain sometimes. Love that question. All right, next up. At 12240, is it possible to measure the setting of a pot and switch it for the corresponding resistor? Is it possible to use the pot like a resistor solution box? Yes, so I'm gonna show you this really quick. I did it here. So in the circuit, we're getting into the circuit stuff now. I removed the collector knob. There was a knob, a pot. You'll see it here. It's basically that cluster of 3 pots together. I kind of removed all of that. And I now have trim pots for one of them. One's a trim. I'm going to show you why I made it a trim pot on the collector of transistor 1. This is the emitter resistor. And then what I did is I actually removed the first stage volume pot because there were 2 volume knobs, right? I had 2 boosts. I removed one of them and I put it in a set position. I'm going to show you how I did that real quick. This resistor right here is actually where the pot used to go. So what I did is I had a potentiometer like this. Let's just put one in here on a dead traces. Turn my multimeter on to the ohm meter, pull out my stickers, and whatever lugs you're using. So like up here, you notice I'm using lug, I guess that's 3 and 2. I'm using 2 lugs. Go to those 2 lugs and touch the meter. The number says 85K. So if I like that setting, right, I'm going to turn that pot to where I like the sound. Where's it at now? If I'm using those 2 lugs, I could go get a 54K, see 54? Let me move it again. 16, all right? I don't have a 16, but I have a 15K resistor right here in my bin of magic. I can take this resistor, now that I know that value, and I can just replace, I can put it where those are, right there. Move that pot out, and it's fixed. So that is how you fix a resistor. And I get asked that a lot, and that was a really wonderful question. So you can take any potentiometer. You might want to build this circuit and you don't like you just like one position on this knob. You can get rid of the knob. You can take any pedal you own. You might have a tube screamer and you might be like, I've always used the tube screamer at noon. You can rip the knob off and just shove a fixed resistor in there. So all you got to do is just measure the resistance and you're done. All right. That's a really great question. Really, really great question. All right. Next up, hope you're liking this. Is an Electro Distortion just an LPB1 with diodes and pots? I've made tons of circuits. Who's inspired to do so? Thought for the price I paid for one of these, I could have made my own much less. It was very true. So this guy's saying, number one, yeah, you can make pedals your own pretty cheaply. Nobody's arguing that. That doesn't mean a pedal company's pedals are too expensive. It's all in context. You could build your own computer. You know, you could make your own shoes. You can make anything. That argument's exhausting. But yes, the first part of his question isn't an Electra. I'm tempted to talk about the Electra circuit because there is a DIY circuit that was pulled out of an MPC cartridge guitar made by Electra in the 70s. And this circuit made it on the internet in the 90s. And people like Love Tone have made so many freaking awesome modifications to this one transistor thing, like the Chula, the Josh Smith signature drive sound. This circuit's really cool, and it's not much different than this. It's pretty similar, and I'm tempted to do like maybe a 1 episode on it next. Let me know how you feel about that. It's gonna be a little repetitive to this, but it's nuance that I think matters if you love what I'm doing here with this circuit. It's a step beyond to this other platform. It's not the same common emitter topology. It's slightly different, but at its heart, it's similar. I'm really torn on whether to do that next or not. So great question. One more, I think. Can you take a basic circuit and rearrange it to be both NPN and PNP? What that means, there are 2 types of transistors, NPN, negative, positive, negative, and then you have PNP, positive, negative, positive. A guitar pedal, when you think of Boss or JHS or whatever, we're all using NPN. That means that when you look down at the circuit, the positive of the battery or power terminal is positive, right? On old vintage pedals, it was actually backwards. It would be called positive ground. So can you take and flip those? Yeah, you can take this circuit and flip it. You have to do a couple little adjustments. You have to do a little bit of adjustments, but it's fine. I think of the Fuzz Factory as a perfect example. He took a PNP fuzz, modded the crap out of it, and reversed the polarity, and that's what makes it so kooky. So, you know, go for it. All right. Nice breadboarding. Maybe you should add some tone stack to the circuit. I did it. I'm going to show you. And that's it. That is our final bit here. Let me pull up the schematic that we will use and try to put it in a place I can draw on it if need be. Let's see if that works. Of course it does not. Hold on. Yeah, let's do that thing where you force the iPad to not rotate. Is that a thing? People still doing that? Let's see here. Come on. Hold on. Really? Let me close this app. Sometimes technology is cursed. I think we all know that. We all agree to that. How's the comments going in there? I think they're good, most likely. Let me not. Come on. You rotated fine yesterday. You just hate me, don't you? Hold on. I'm going to have to put the image up because this is cursed, like I said. Hold on here. Thank you for bearing with me. We're going to jump right into the circuit. Let me turn off rotate. And now, there is the circuit. Okay. That is not as convenient. I could do the thing where I draw on it, though. Let's see here. Oh, look at me. I'm an artist. Okay. Let's first go through transistors. So this is a class. Where did I land on transistors? How did I replace those pots with trim pots? What am I doing with the trim pots? So like these blue trim pots, these are fixed pots. You might have opened pedals before and seen a trim pot. What's going on there? Explain, how do you bias the circuit? What does that mean? Let's do that kind of quickly. And then why am I using, what harebrained person decides to remove the emitter the emitter resistor and make that a knob? And then why does it crackle? And why am I okay with that? On today's episode, these concerning issues. All right, you ready? Let's play it again and listen to the sweet, sultry sounds. Right before I start here, I actually want to crank up the scope and I want to show you what this looks like. This is a really important lesson to understand what the crap is actually going on. Can I see the sound? So let me turn on a scope. I have one over here. It's gonna hum. Look at those sick graphics. Rigall, come on Rigall. I don't know who Rigall is. Let's see. All right, so let me give it a signal. Bear with me here. I'm gonna just strum and hit auto. Okay, let me back this off a little. There's a couple of things here that are helpful. You can put a little digital filter on some noise so the thing is clearer. All right, so let's check this out. Now on a scope, I'm not gonna strum like rock and roll chords. It doesn't really do any, there's nothing useful to it. So I'm just gonna hit an A note. Okay, so the bottom line, the bottom line is the clean signal. It's just everything's basically clean now, but you have a sine wave, right? So let's get in here. All right. And you'll notice the top, channel 1, the yellow, notice it's kind of squared. Well, that's the initial thing that's happening to this sound. It's so funny to get it to be the right size sometimes. Let's see. Almost. You get the idea. So now as I turn, I'm going to leave it on the scope thing and tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to turn the tone off and we're going to play with just the drive knob. I'm going to show you some stuff here. All right. It got way more square. So you are seeing distortion. I need to get that to slow down. It's a little better. Yeah, you're actually seeing the distortion. Now, what I'm going to do now is turn on the fuzz switch, okay? So I'm going to go smaller fuzz first, turn it down a bit. Much more squared. Let's do the bigger fuzz. Even more squared. Now this is interesting. I'm going to numb it out with the tone control. It doesn't do a lot of difference. Now, check this out. I have a switch here that I put a little slider switch to remove these diodes, and we're going to get to these diodes because they're important. But you're going to see that this circuit, without clippers at the end to smooth it off, is really square wave. It's more of a sine wave, a smoother overdrive, because I've put these clipping diodes in it. So let's play a note, half gain, overdrive mode. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to remove the clipping diodes. Way, way square. Did you catch that? And that really matters. So if I turn the gain up. So what does that mean when we're playing? I'm going to play a little more guitar with the mic off and let you watch the scope. You're going to see the square wave. And then I'm going to turn the diodes on and you'll see it kind of become a sine wave on the yellow. Immediately, I would use words like chunky, harsh, crispy, you know, just like, like kind of, I don't know. It's real harsh. The edges are not round. And when I said I feel my way through circuits, I hear in this an unrounded tone I'm not a big fan of. That doesn't mean you don't like it, but I want it smoother, right? Because I know the fuzz, when I flip the fuzz switch, it's going to go square wave more. So now let me play and then quickly turn on the switch and let you hear it. Like night and day, night and day. Look at it on the scope. It's absolutely more round. Turn it off, square. So that is what the diodes are doing, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But I wanted to kind of walk through that section for you. And let's talk about the transistors though. Now that you understand that, because I'm going to talk about how the transistors, will do it now. The transistors, the way I'm distorting to get a boost to do overdrive is actually pretty harsh and not pretty. So the first thing I want to do here is talk about what am I actually doing in the circuit. So let's look at the circuit. All right. So I'm going to use this red pen and pray that this actually works. All right. So the guitar goes in here. Oh, it worked. Wow. I feel like I'm doing something with my life here. Can I make that thicker? Yeah. All right. That's where your guitar goes in. We're going through a 0.01 cap right there. That 0.01 I chose, it's right here. The stock LPB1 is more of like a 0.15. I felt it was too bassy. So I used a capacitor that shaved off some low end here. When you're looking at my schematic, you need to know this is preference right here. And this cap, this capacitor, this one right here. Let's see. This is your preference. I would suggest 0.1, 0.01, 0.00 something. That's going to get you around. You're going to have like treble boost. You're going to have all kinds of stuff. And you remember on episode 1 or 2, I showed you this. LPB1, Hog's Foot bass booster, Screaming Bird treble, and modern version. They're all the same circuit. And the primary difference is that cap. So that sets the frequency. That's called a coupling capacitor. All right, let's back out of this. This is working. I'm drawing on an image and I feel modern. That's great. All right. Then we have these resistors. These resistors I kept stock. They are essentially, they're right here, and they are simply help biasing the transistor. And what that means is when you look at this transistor right here, it needs to see a very low voltage right here on the base. So these are letting the 9 volts come down and exist, but it's giving the base transistor, the base is the middle leg, a very small amount of energy. Okay. Now, and if we look at that using the Apple Pen, not what it's for, not what it's intended for, that's those two. That's the transistor right here that I'm pointing at. I'll bend it over. All right. That's what that is. And I chose the 5088 that was originally in it. I had a bunch of cool stuff. And you know, like I have transistors galore. I literally have thousands of transistors. And it's like so tempting to use like cool metal can vintage, you know, BC108s like are in a fuzz face or something. But at the end of the day, I was thinking about you building it. I took the copper sound, don't kill yourself, Josh. I took the copper sound transistor switcher and I played with it a ton. And I just landed on the original 5088 because it's a great cheap transistor. And I learned that what really matters to make it sound different, and I said this before, it's not the transistor magic. It's actually this. So let's look here. What really makes this transistor sound interesting or good, any transistor you put here, what makes it sound the way you want? It's this and this. And that is the inconvenient truth of gear snobs and snob builders. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that there aren't like awesome vintage transistors. I use them all the time and they have characteristics. But at the end of the day, you can make anything sound killer if you bias it correctly. So let's go to this 50K trim and I'm going to show you how to bias Q1. All right. So transistor 1, let's bias the crap out of it right now together. Let's join together today, dearly beloved, to bias the crap out of a 5088. All right. So I'm going to take my multimeter and I'm going to put it on that V, not that one, because that's the wrong V. You would want this V. All right. I'm going to take my sticky. I have these. You can buy different plugins for your multimeters, right? You can little banana plugs. I like these because they're sharp and you could basically murder someone with these if needed be. I do not in any way condone murder, but if you needed to, you could do it with your multimeter. All right. You just plug it into the ground plane. The beauty of the breadboard, just pick a spot, plug it into ground. All right. What do I want to do with this? Well, on the schematic, it's the collector resistor. See it? Let's go there. That red circle is the collector resistor. On the normal schematic, Old Faithful, it's just a 10K. But that ain't good enough. We ain't got time for normal. This is not, short circuit's not about normal. It's about getting funky. So let's get funky with it. Let's bias that part of the schematic. Here we go. What do I do, Josh? You take your pointed murder weapon, you stick it in the collector line. Notice my multimeter has a voltage. Notice that if I turn this other pot, it changes. That's the emitter collector. Let's do a different color. I'm getting creative here. I'm feeling saucy. That would be this pot here. So I actually chose to make that the gain control. The blue thing right here. I made that the gain control. But that's actually the emitter resistor. That is this resistor. And I was like, nah, I ain't got time for a common resistor. I ain't got time for that. So I made that the gain pot right here. And now we're going to bias. It's almost biased. Here's what you want to do. It's this simple. I inserted this red murderous point into the collector. And I want to see 4.5 volts if I'm going to bias it. You want half supply voltage on the collector. This is fuzz faces and everything, right? This is the classic. It's really hard to do too. That's pretty close. But here's the thing. Let me play that and let me let you hear the number. This is what I meant by feeling my way around. Let me let you hear 4.5 volts. Okay. All right, that's 4.5 volts-ish. What happens when I just bomb it out? Overload, 9.3. Nothing. The transistor is dying. It is being murdered. It is in pain. I do not want to do that. Let me bump it up till I hear it. Oh, so now we know a transistor, a 5088, can handle 5.6 pretty well. If you've ever had a pedal with a bias knob, this is all the knob is. Literally. Analog Man Fuzz, my 3 Series Fuzz. It's a knob where there was a trim pot or where there was a resistor. It's letting you be the designer of sorts. So, what does it sound like if I keep cranking? What does the 4.5 sound like? It's so sensitive, it's ridiculous. And you're hearing that current. 4.5. That's nice. It's clean in the sense that it's, you know, good and clean. Let's crank it that way. Oh, you ever play a splattery pedal? What are they doing? What's the sorcery? They're turning the voltage down and misbiasing the transistor. That's the magic. That's really low. Let's crank it up to, come on, man. Give me something. Is my not load on? What are we at? We gotta really turn this. What's 1.4? Notice the whole time I'm kind of leaving this halfway, and that's only for a user interface thing. I know that if I'm halfway on that control, because these interplay, I know that I can have the proper cleanish stuff, and then I can get crazy on the top end. That's just like a rule of thumb if you're feeling it out. Somebody said starved plate sound. Yeah, it's a starved transistor sound. That's real similar. Here you go. So here's where my rule of thumb is. On a circuit like this, 4.5 is where you should go. I really like 5-ish. Give it a little bit more gas, meaning a little bit more headroom. It's the thing where you're like, do you power a pedal at 9 or 18? It's negligible. Most people can't hear it. It's not a big deal. But in this sense, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm giving it a little more headroom. All right. So back to the drawing board, literally. Okay. Let's get out of here. Now you know how I biased that. Now, what is this thing? Well, first of all, that I just turned it into a pot. I already showed you. I took the resistor 390 and I said, I want to play around with it. I put a 5K pot on it last week. I like that. And now this control, it's just a pot. That's all I did. There's no magic there. I just turned it into a pot. All right. So that being said, what is this? That, my friends, is one of my favorite things ever. It's in the Super Bolt. It's in Fuzz Faces. It's in Range Masters. Lions, Tigers, and Bears. Oh my. It is called a bypass capacitor. It is where you have a capacitor that comes off the collector and lets signal bypass the biasing that's happening here. It keeps the bias in place, but that whole thing is one of my favorite hacks ever. Let's look at it. And how does that exist? Let me remove these dangerous weapons until I need them later. Okay. I literally stabbed them into the plastic there. It's very scary. That is this switch setup. Big shout to Copper Sound. They have this really clever system. These board adapters. It came with a single pole double throw switch on, off, on. You can find these on their website. I just rigged it up here and stuck it in. So it's a toggle switch that essentially, see, isn't that cool? Copper sounds so cool. Jordan's so smart. They're so clever. Look at that. Anyway, so yeah, you just take it. Now will I get it back in place? Probably not. Have I made a bad decision pulling this out? Probably so. Hold on. Oh my God. It worked. All right, cool. So this switch is simply by way of this, choosing between two capacitors. Capacitor 1, capacitor 2. And the switch, this whole thing, when you switch it, it goes to one side or to the other side. You're just choosing it's a railway switch. That's all you're doing. So when I play this, I am bypassing through these two capacitors right here. And I chose them because I played with this forever. 2.2 UF on the schematic and 10 UF. Here's the 10 UF. Here it is off. On. Off. On. That's the 10. Juicy square wave. Look at that square wave. It's so beautiful. I love a good square wave. Yep, all right. When I switch here, I'm just choosing the 10 UF. That's even more square wave. I like square wave. Okay? So all we did there is we used a switch to put two capacitors to choose which ones bypass this biasing point. You see this on Arrangemaster is the most famous use of this. I used it in the Super Bolt. It's just super famous. It's in the fuzz face topology, not quite as harsh, a little bit of a different purpose, but that's what that does. So, all right. What do we do now, Josh? We keep going is what we do. We keep going because it's already 5 o'clock, but y'all are all nerds. And I love you nerds. You're my favorite. Everybody good in the comments? Let me know. Let's light up the comments, you know. Let's give Belle and Joshua and Jordan just a big virtual high 10, high five. Y'all are learning stuff. You know, some people are playing Pokemon Go. They're on MapQuest looking at cool restaurants or whatever the kids do nowadays. But you're here learning about this stuff. And I love it. All right. Here we go. This cap. What is this? It's just another coupling capacitor. It separates this side of the circuit from this side so that there's no AC mess. It just separates things. It keeps this entire side of the circuit away from this side of the circuit. It is a wall. It's a wall that separates any AC like voltage. You don't want any of that in there. So that is the point you can still tune. I did 0.01 over here. You might normally think, well, Josh, you should just put 0.01s here because this is actually a bigger cap and there's no bass here. But I like leaving it a little potentially bassier here in case some chaos and goodness happened with this. I like trimming the guitar here, like trim the guitar here. And then I know that some bass might come from here that maybe comes up out of nowhere. So I wanted a bigger cap value. All right. This, you know what that is? That's the original volume pot on the end of this. 100K volume out. I just literally fixed it. And I showed you that. That's this resistor right here. Right here. See that? I just said, I'm going to fix it. And what I did is I measured it with the multimeter and I found, I like the 12K because you're working with a potential of 100K. And I found that 12K let it be loud, but not loud enough. I didn't want the volume on the front of the stage to be so loud that it pushed the other. I wanted it to be a little bit of a boost, but still clean. So 12K felt good to me in my ears. But you could change that. If you change that 12K to something else, you could distort the crap out of this. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have my distortion created here, and then I wanted to clip here, and then I wanted to make up gain here, and I'll explain that as I keep going down. All right. We're drunken. Boo. Grateful Dead, greatest song ever. All right, here we go. What are those, Josh? Those are clipping diodes. What is a clipping diode? A clipping diode, this is one of those things where people say words that they get confused with stuff. A clipping diode is not a transistor. And I say that because people, you know, the Klon is the talk of the town. The Klon diodes, they are magical, right? Okay, so let's take something like a D9K. These are glass germanium diodes. I think I have thousands of these. They're hilarious. They're from Russia. They smell like something. I haven't figured it out yet. It's a mystery. What are these? Well, there's germanium diodes, and then there's like germanium transistors. I don't want to break anything, but I bought these the other day. It's like a little tray of germanium. These are some Japanese Toshibas. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I have an addiction to hoarding transistors. But that's a germanium transistor, right? It's 3 legs. It's the same as the 5088 that we put in here, but it's not. It's germanium. They're PNP. They're positive voltage. They're a real booger to work with. So the diode is not an amplifier. So don't get it confused when you say, my Distortion Plus has germanium transistors. No, it does not. It has germanium diodes. So what is a diode? It is a passive device. It is not an amplifier. And essentially it scoops down it basically scoops off and clips the waveform. And I showed you earlier on the scope with this switch what that actually did. So I'm not going to go over it again. But these 4 diodes in series are interesting. Normally, you see this arrangement. Let me show you what you normally see. I'll draw it up here. You'll see like a circuit, and then you'll see one diode like this, and then you'll see another diode like this. Let's just say those connect, and then let's say those go down and they go to ground. And then your circuit keeps going, right? There's like in, whatever that means, and out, whatever circuit. That could be a clons like this or whatever. Why do I have 4? Like, why did I do this? So that's like, what are you doing, Josh? Why are these there? Well, you see this. The Blues Breaker does it. I think the Timmy does it. What does it do to have 4? Well, it essentially, it's not easy to explain, but it has more dynamics. It has more clean signal mixed in. Again, here I am trying to explain it in engineering terms, but I know this. The diodes are in this circuit by choice for me to remove the square waveness. I want it more round. I want it to be a distortion, but I want it round. My favorite distortions are very round. A rat is super round. So I'm thinking, how do I do that? I put 2 diodes in, like this traditional thing here. I'm not a big fan because what it does is it really brought the volume down. Like it hogs the volume. So if I put a pair, 2 pairs in, what happens is the threshold becomes very different and your forward voltage is different. And the forward voltage means this. If I have 10 different types of diodes, forward voltage is how much energy, let's say just very simple layman's terms, how much guitar signal has to cross the diode. You see, there's a path here. There's a path where your circuit's driving down this line. See the red line? It's going that way. Well, how much voltage has to cross this point to even activate the diodes? That is called forward voltage. Germanium diodes don't need much at all. They clip really early. LEDs clip latest. So these are very different sounds. That's why a turbo rat and a rat sound different. Because a turbo rat uses LEDs and the forward voltage is super high. And then down is a germanium. It clips early. And if you want to experiment with this, I mean, by all means, I wish I'd had this. I would have been a much smarter person. Just get this thing, like right here. We need to do that giveaway in the comments, y'all. So check it out. This is how you can hear all of those. And if you plug this in, you can hear a pair. So that's why I chose those. Just know that a pair of diodes, a double pair, it's symmetrically clipping in a way that has more dynamics. It's not smushing as much. And it's not hogging as much signal when it comes to the clean signal versus distorted clipping signal. You could say in layman's terms, I'm being careful because people are going to get in the comments and roast me. It's more of a clean blend feel. Let me play it for you and remove it one more time. So here's the signal. All right, you're noticing square wave up top. I'm going to remove those diodes. Watch how much more square wave. It's a lot buzzier. That diode choice that I made smooths it out quite a bit. And then, yeah, like off, on, off. So it's a pretty big deal. And that's why sometimes that pair works well. But when you're playing with the circuit on your own, and you should, You can take this and just try anything you want. Go to town. Do whatever you want. You be you. Find your inner self. You can put 100 diodes. You can put 1 diode. You can put 4 diodes. Whatever. All right. I think we're doing good here on time. I'm actually not that far from being done. Shockingly, I could go for 6 hours, but I do want to wrap this up in a good way. Next, we having fun? Hope we're having fun. I don't know where the giveaway is, but they're doing it, so blessed. All right, here we go. Now we're moving down. Here's another bypass capacitor. Again, it's just like this. It's just like this. And so I don't explain it later. There's 4 bypass capacitors. These inherently trim frequency. They set the frequency. The one up front is kind of what you're allowing of the guitar in. Everything else after that is shaping what's already going on in the circuit. So for instance, I said this whole thing creates a little extra bass in my opinion. So I wanted to leave the 0.82. I wanted to let it be lifted and then I just let it go out. This will also hypothetically be a little more bass friendly. I wouldn't say this is the greatest bass overdrive, but it is probably pretty darn good. I haven't tried it. It's probably great. But right here, you're seeing an X. What is the X? Well, the X is this. I inserted a rat low pass filter and I'm going to play it for you. I think it doesn't need this. I will be torn on it, but everyone asked. Let's play it. I'm torn on if I care. I don't feel like I care enough. Vote if it needs this or not. That's off. That means it's out of the circuit because it's just the pot is off. But here we go. All the way on. All the way off. On. Go to the different fuzz mode. This is where I most like it. Turn up that emitter gain a bit. Back that out. Oh, my diodes are out. I gotta put them back in. So the design would be proper here. That sounds just like a rat. And this circuit is nothing like a rat. But I love that sound. It's one of my all-time favorite sounds. I get it. Now that I'm playing it, I'm like, it is pretty great. And I do want to say this. It sounds like a rat because, number one, I'm clipping this circuit in a way that's not super square. I'm trying to keep it round, and then you add the rat tone control. And this is the other thing nobody wants to tell you. Most drives, it's all EQ. Like, it really is. I could take this circuit and I could put a 3-band EQ. I could keep going. I mean, it sounds like a rat because it's hitting the same spots in a different way. That's why circuits aren't magic. They're just recipes. And you can borrow your favorite thing and combine it with something else. So anyway, what's our votes here? Keep the good noises. Keep it. Keep it. Keep it. 1 vote for no, but leave it on. I don't know what that means. 2, keep it. All right. All I was saying is you break that trace. So you would actually insert it here. You don't want this to touch this. You want to break it, right? That's what I'm saying with the X. And then you insert this circuit right here. The rat is normally a 100K. The 50K feels better here. These are exact rat. These are the exact rat formula. And that is a math formula. The resistor and the capacitor are a math formula for a low pass filter. So without further ado, let's move on. Not talking about that bypass cap. We already talked about this. It's the same as it was over here. It's no different. This is the second LPB1 right here. And this is exactly like the Big Muff. I put an LPB1 in, and I'm using it to make up volume that is lost due to the clipping and this, and the tone control hogs a ton of volume. So I'm actually using this whole section as just a boost pedal on the back end. That's all I'm doing. And it is exactly what you think. It's the traditional LPB1 I built on episode 1. The only thing I would mention is I did bias it at exactly 4.5 volts. That is done right here. If I take my murder weapon, stick it in the ground, go collector, turn this back on, where did I land? 4.5 volts. If you want to experiment with that, by all means do. But that's where we're at. I'm looking over my notes. I think we're done. The last thing I would say is, I didn't cover this. This crackles and makes DC noise. I could do some fancy stuff to get rid of the gain control doing that. But here's where I'm at, y'all. If Zvex can sell 80 million, or not really, but he sold a bamillion super hard-ons and all that, and he just wrote on the pot crackle okay. I'm not gonna waste energy here. We're guitar players. I'm not a heart surgeon. You know what I'm saying? If this moves a little bit, so be it. Let it move. That's where I'm at. I think I'm done. I think this circuit is done. I hope you enjoy this. Go take this schematic and just do. How do I turn this off? Come on. I don't know how this works. Auto minimize. There you are. Okay. Take this schematic. Have a blast with it. I call it the LPB1 a drive a fuzz. I like saying that. LPB1 drive LPB1 a drive a fuzz. LPB1 a drive a fuzz. All right. I'm going to take a few seconds here. Let me see if there's any comments from the gang. Let's see. I have a question. So Josh sent me a question. I think they're probably going home because it's 5 p.m. here. But here's a question. Paul Frown. It seems as though... Turn that noise off. That's haunting. I'll turn my scope off too. All right. It seems as though it's important to bias the transistors typically, but with fuzz, we're intentionally unbiasing. What, if anything, do we still have to maintain in ensuring it's biased enough? That's a clever question. I don't think biased enough is something to worry about. It's really, what are you wanting to do with the part? We know that on all transistors, whether it's a fuzz face or a boost, you should bias at 4.5 volts on the collector. This is optimally how it's made, right? This is how the part's made to function properly. On a fuzz face, I still love biasing at 4.5 because the distortion on a fuzz face is happening because of, there's actually a feedback loop in a fuzz face. A tone bender is a little different as well. On something like this boost, the distortion is happening in a few places. It's happening with this transistor. It's then being smoothed out with those clippers. That's it. This bypass section is inherently just a connection bias thing going with the transistor. So even though that's like cool and it's a lot of trickery, it's one of my favorite circuit tricks, it's really just the biasing of that. That's all it's really doing. Wow, my eraser got involved there. So you can't, there's not a maintain proper bias necessarily. It's really to taste. Proper bias is always 4.5 volts on the collector in most circuits. That's proper. I haven't done it here. I did 5 volts on the first stage. The boost, I did 4.5. But here's the other thing I want to show you. This is important. Wow, I got really confused there. Let me show you what's happening. So I biased this at 4.5. Now it's at 5. But here's what's happening. When I'm playing the guitar and I like a dirtier signal, that emitter is actually swinging it. Look how crazy. Let me play that for you. So this pedal is thriving on horrible bias. Check it. Eight. 8.4 on the clean side. Turn that tone control off. Turn the fuzz off. I love how clean this stays, even though it's a fuzz now if I want it to be. That is like Dumble amp headroom clean. Like for real. Listen to that. Middle pickup. But I'm at 8.4 is why that's happening. Because I'm using this as my gain. That's one reason I like it. Middle, I'm at 5. So you could say middle is biased. And then getting it up here, right? Like, and then lastly, when I flip my fuzz toggle, look what happened to that bias. It stays the same, but there's a bypass happening that's pretty magical. I wish I actually understood it more. But these are just simply part of the bias world here. This whole thing. Oh my gosh, come on. There we go. That whole thing. That's all it is. That's all that's going on. So that's really great. I think our giveaway's in place. I'm just checking out these comments. I guess we're good. This was super fun. We've done roughly 5 hours of we've done roughly 5 hours on one circuit. I love this. I hope you love it. I saw a great comment. Zachary Haven, fuzz toggle turned into a foot switch. Dude, all day. Just do this. Look at this. Take this section, this switch, pick your favorite capacitor, and just have a foot switch flip it. Like, yeah, so you could have this pedal, and all of a sudden you hit the switch and it turns the foot. That's a great idea. That's how you need to think. Like, you don't have to be some engineer. Creative thinking in this stuff is more useful than, is it biased properly? And is the quotient of the formula for the filter? Like, that's not rock and roll. Like, I think the better ideas come from the creative thinking about the circuits. That's just my take on it. That's the success I've had, is not worrying about the textbook thing, but how can I creatively play with those principles? By all means, you know, I think there's a famous Miles Davis quote about improvising music, and it applies here. The best improvisers know the chord progressions. Like, improvising is not noodling and shredding. It's someone who's mastered the progression in the song so that they know the options. And so I do say, go get some books, you know, learn what's going on. And that's why I'm doing a basic teaching of why stuff's sounding and what it's looking like. Even showing you on the scope is fun. I love that comment. I'll hang out for just a couple more good questions if there are any. You guys are a really fun group. Jordan, thank you so much. Everybody go over to Copper Sound. I can't say enough about these products. Again, I'm not sponsored or anything. These are just phenomenal products. The breadboards, the substitution boxes. They have these kits that are really cool. Look at these. You can just like buy a kit here, select a model. Here's a silicon fuzz kit. Look, build you a fuzz face. Here, build a treble boost. $12? That's so much fun. 3-band EQ to add on to one of your pedals. Single transistor overdrive. Like, that's just so stinking cool. I'm a massive fan of like how they have formulated this to just work so well. It's awesome. Again, I think a final goodbye here. A couple more comments. Let's see here. Hope to see an episode where you build this out in a pedal form. I'll try to do that. I talked about it at the beginning. You might want to go back and check that out. Yeah, there's so many. A box it later schematic. That's fun. I looked at that schematic today. Just saying, all you John Mayer fans, I don't know. I'm tempted because it's such a fun thing. John's had it on his Dead and Company board for a while. It's pretty fun. Yeah, I would just say thanks so much for this. In the comments, let me know what you think about this circuit. And yeah, take it, do what you want with it. Let me know if you'd like to see this as a product from JHS. Maybe one day, maybe it's a 3 series pedal. Could be kind of cool. And then also Jordan mentioned, would you want a kit of this, like a parts kit to build it? Is that interesting to any of you? Again, just go love on the Copper Sound crew. They're doing great stuff. And that's it. I don't have anything else to say. I don't want to elongate it. Thanks for everyone's support of the Beach Boys project that came out today. If you're not aware, there's a link. It's on our YouTube channel. It's really fun. We did a video that Sweetwater aired, which is me interviewing Robert Keeley and Chris Benson about their inventions. I talk about R2. And then there's a video where myself, Rhett Scholl, and Chris Cron recreated a Beach Boys 60s era song in the studio. It's like a vlog. It's really, really fun and cool. I had a little bit of PTSD from how long that day was, but it's super fun. So yeah, thanks for everyone who supported. Those products are over at Sweetwater. They are limited simply because it's a Beach Boys thing and they wanted them, and it doesn't make sense to make them forever. So they're really fun. They're not like, we're not trying to hype anything with limited. It's just how they were made and kind of the agreement with the Beach Boys. And it's such an honor to get to work with like a classic American band and get to do that. So bye-bye. Have a wonderful day. I always feel like I'm forgetting something, but I'm not. Y'all are great. I'm going to figure out what to do on part 4. I will start a new project on episode 4. I'm torn between the Electro transistor overdrive and like an op amp thing. I'm really torn on it. So I could even I could do some old JHS mods, have some tube screamers and blues drivers. We could maybe do something like that and use the breadboard. I don't know. That's it. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.